Hello and welcome back to the Orange Network. I'm your host, Rob Jones. This is the one source of truth for your one source of truth. If that source of truth is HubSpot, as we normally do, we're going to bring our guest of the day on. He is a international man of HubSpot CRM solution mystery. He is a former LEO, which I think is important with his critical analysis skills. He is an inbound correspondent. He's a father. He's a friend. He is none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Frank Devine. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Rob.
I love having these conversations, especially with our peers. I like getting an opportunity to set you up to talk about all the stuff you do behind the scenes, right? You're one of our SEs, you're on the sales team. You've had raving reviews lately, but let's start off with who you are, where you're from, the story to get to where you currently are, which is RevPartners.
Yeah, I'll try to be concise. I do love to talk, but yeah, so I'm Frank Devine. I live in Southern California, born and raised in this area, married with two boys. So very busy on a regular basis chasing kids around. Yeah, like you said, background, I thought I was going to be a police officer. I went to school for criminal justice, but it ended up not working out for me. And I ended up a couple months away from getting married and living with my mom. And I said, this isn't going to work. So I moved in with my sister in the Bay Area in the Silicon Valley, took a job as an SDR. I started in the grind of the business world. Here I am almost 10 years later and found my home in RevOps. It's what I love. And it combines a lot of the different skill sets that you learn along the way from SDR to AE and into management. And it also scratches that itch that I had. The person that wanted to be a police officer, that wanted to be a detective, I just do it in a different medium.
So you're solving CRM crimes now instead of actual murders or okay.
Yes.
Got it. I had to throw that in there. How old are your boys?
Leo is 6 and Oliver is 2.
Nice. I have four. If you need another kid, we're looking to get rid of one soon. But we're here today to talk about some stuff. Frank, we open these up usually with that intro. I'd like to ask another question pretty directly, but the intent is to just get people to listen. Why should people care about what you're about to show us? Because I've seen it and some of the stuff is really cool. Specifically, I know that we're going to inbound. So if anybody should be watching this, prospect or somebody that's interested in HubSpot or even a HubSpot rep, like why should people care about what you're about to show us?
I think it answers the question like, why does it hurt? A lot of times you go into tools and systems and you're like, this just doesn't work right. But there's not often a great answer or solution to figure out why it hurts or how do you make it feel better. And that's a big part of my job is helping to do that diagnosis, that investigation, and figure out how to get to the place you want to be.
Sounds like you're a physician of sorts for people's organizations, which I love. I've been pushing that narrative for a rebrand for a long time. Brendan, if you're listening, I'm saying this on the Orange Network. We're going to go into the first segment. So, one of the things we like to do is have stuff from the audience. So, I think you brought something from a thread or a social platform. First up with Frank is our audience. So, this comes to us from everybody's favorite, kind of the darkest of social, Reddit. There's a lot of very true stuff. Reddit is a wild place, but the question is right here on the screen. How would you define a HubSpot expert? Frank, how would you answer that?
It's hard to define what an expert is. It's a very subjective phrase. I think there was a famous Supreme Court justice who was trying to define something similar and said, I don't know how to describe it, but I know it when I see it. And I think that's a big piece of defining an expert in HubSpot. You should be able to see what that person can do. If you've got workflows, if you've got reports and dashboards that are complex, that show cross object information, that automate important processes within HubSpot, these are ways that you start to become an expert. For this person in particular, they really got challenged by one of their coworkers and said, what's your level of experience? Rather than try to talk them through it, why don't you open up HubSpot and go and show them the things that you've been doing? I think there's also a misconception, especially we're all coming out of this world where Salesforce was the only solution, but you had to have a Salesforce degree. You have to be a certified admin to be effective in the tool. That's not the case with
Literally called
HubSpot.
engineers. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's not the case with HubSpot. You don't have to have this specialized ability and know how to code in Apex. If you're a smart RevOps leader and you know how to problem solve and collaborate with others and find solutions, you can become an expert very quickly in HubSpot.
I would like to also allow you the opportunity because I feel like this would be brought up as a question. It's a question I have immediately, which is there is a difference in a HubSpot expert and a RevOps strategist, right? Would you agree or disagree with that?
Absolutely agree that there is a difference. A RevOps strategist is more thinking about business processes, understanding from the first time a person hears about your company all the way through purchasing and then renewing, being your best customer. There's a whole life cycle that's in there. HubSpot is a mechanism and a tool that can help you measure and perform along there. But being a RevOps strategist is understanding the bigger picture.
I was going to say the holistic part, right? The whole customer journey. VPs of sales or even top performers have a pretty, I would say, it requires a pretty deep understanding of their lane, right? Like their department or their specific function within the org. But the difference in somebody that's able to tactically execute that even among multiple departments, and a strategist is somebody that can look forward and say, based off of the findings in HubSpot that the HubSpot expert or admin has put together, here's what we should do next. Here's what we should do now, right? Does that help? Am I off here to hear your, because you do both. You've mentioned that you have experience not only with HubSpot, but with other ton of other platforms because it's critical for your role.
Yeah, absolutely. I have exposure to dozens and dozens of SaaS platforms as my role as a solutions engineer. But previously, I was a RevOps team of one. So I managed our entire tech stack. I was making the decisions of what are we using for call recording? What are we using for sales enablement? How are we doing quoting and e-signatures? And what are we making phone calls on? So you learn to develop an understanding of the tech ecosystem. And that's where HubSpot really becomes a superpower for especially those one person RevOps teams. You can do so much in it. Everything connects to it. It's pretty easy to get set up. But yeah, you have to understand how all these different components fit into the bigger picture. And it's hard to balance that tactical expertise with the strategic mindset.
That is very well said. How did you respond to this, by the way? Do you have a comment here, or was what you just said out loud something that you're going to draft up later and send?
I think I'll reach out to Purple Pink Skies 99 directly with some advice. But yeah, you don't want to battle this one head on just with words. A picture's worth 1,000 words. A report, a dashboard, a workflow is going to be that much more powerful for proving your expertise.
I hope that's foreshadowing, Frank. Don't lead me on here. What do we got next? Is this a segue into something that you brought with you today to show us?
Yeah, in terms of what we wanted to talk about for the main topic today, yeah, I have a full HubSpot audit where I leverage my expertise in the platform to provide insights for one of our prospects.
Then we need to set you up properly. So we're going to take this off. Frank with us today. We ask guests to bring in what they want to talk about and show us a clip. So here's Frank's Bring Your Own Clip. It is about an audit. I can't wait. Can I just open this portion of the episode up with, how do you interpret the word audit? Like, how does the word you talked about, how does it feel and pain earlier? When I say the word audit, what comes to mind immediately
The
emotionally?
IRS, taxes,
Okay.
negative things, number
So
crunchers, getting in
yes,
trouble.
I'm putting it out here into the ether now. We need to change. Audit is scary, right? These are good. This
Yeah.
is helpful information that we find, and I don't. You should definitely pay attention after this. I would vote for calling it something that doesn't evoke this sense of like tax theft or April 15th, any of that. But
Yeah.
that's for another session. So you did an audit. The bluff is you did an audit. You had some findings. Can you set the stage for what we're about to walk through, or is that?
Yeah,
I'll give that over to
absolutely.
you. We need some context here.
Yes. So my primary role as a solutions engineer in the pre-sales process is to perform one of two functions. One, I may do a reverse demo of a platform. So it's more of a show and tell. The prospect pulls up their screen, walks me through a platform. Maybe it's the CRM that they're coming out of. Maybe it's a tool that they're trying to integrate. The other option is a HubSpot audit. And so what's great about this is they provide me admin access to their platform, and I have a couple of hours to go in and spend time looking at end to end in their platform to try and understand what's going on behind the scenes, what maybe they're not thinking about, or things that they don't realize are important. And in this instance, what we have is as a startup, they brought on a new sales leader about 6 months ago. And this person identified, hey, we have a marketing challenge. I don't really know how to articulate it because I'm a salesperson. And who believes a salesperson who says, marketing isn't working. Like sales marketing alignment, that challenge is always something that comes up. So they reached out to us and said, I think it would be helpful, one, to leverage somebody who understands HubSpot really well, but two, have an impartial voice in this discussion to figure out what's going on with our marketing, how it's constructed today.
Say it louder. Why, just real quick, why an impartial voice? I know my answer to this, but why does that matter? Why wouldn't you just be able to have another department look at why the impartiality? Why is that so important?
One, it helps to remove any sense of like bias. Hey, if I'm friends with the VP of sales and I did this, like you already are going to question all my insights. I'm motivated by being friends with this person. I'm pretty agnostic in this. I'm in the middle. Like I'm Sweden or Switzerland.
One of
I
them.
don't really, yeah, one of those great S countries in Europe. I don't have a dog in this fight. I know how HubSpot works and I know best practices for marketing, sales, client success. And when I go in and look at it, I can pull out these insights and come to them and say, I found this. That's broken. That's wrong. Or is there a reason you're doing this? Because
Yeah.
it better be good.
Based on the data, just for clarification, I don't, I wouldn't say that's common, like nepotism, the whole bias friend kind of thing. And it's more about the agenda, right? It's more about sales has an agenda. They have goals, they have numbers, they have, and so does marketing, so does every other department. So serving as a impartial voice, almost as I view RevOps in the context of a jury or judge, right? You have the case being made for something, the case being made against something, like an idea or an initiative. And RevOps brings data up, which you're about to show us to say, based on what we found, this is what we need to do.
Absolutely. You said it better than myself. And in fact, I showed some of my own past trauma from feeling like others were out to get me or these people had ulterior motives when looking at my work.
So speaking of the work, let's dive in here. It looks like you got a couple slides and I see a lot of red. Hopefully that is something good.
It's going to be very interesting. That's the goal. So let me pull this up. So basically, when I run an audit findings meeting, I'm spending probably 20, 30 minutes walking through the findings, and I want to make it a discussion as well. I'm paid by RevPartners to have an opinion. The only thing that's missing when I'm doing an audit is context. So that's why it's important. Here's what I found. If you've got a reason or an excuse or an explanation, let's discuss it and see how it matches to best practices. But first and foremost, everything that we do at RevPartners is based around this data model and understanding the importance of a data model to measure and understand your business end to end. So this is the bow tie model developed by Winning by Design, and it is a way of measuring in HubSpot. This is how you would measure lifecycle stages from awareness through selection all the way to expanding a client. This is the foundation that helps you understand conversion rates, time to conversion, how many people are being pulled in, and where you can push and pull to improve performance. So, with this in mind, we can now go into some of the findings that are going to be in conflict with this. You,
The red spoiler, the red was not good after all. All right, continue.
but because I send my deck as a leave behind, this is a great resource for an executive or somebody else who's coming in to look at this deck to get in one slide. I can understand what the other pieces are. But we're going to talk about the data model. We're going to talk about attribution and then marketing configuration and performance overall.
Real quick, just in case anybody isn't looking at this directly, if you want us to go back, this is broken down. Hopefully this is going to be audio or a podcast so people can hear some of this without seeing it and go to YouTube. But it's a graph or a chart, findings, evidence, priority, data model, broken, limited. There's evidence here. So life cycle stage automations and conversion. This is just, that's what this looks like. And Frank's going to, I would assume, get into some more details from the evidence and show screenshots. But these are both, all three of these, there's 4 buckets here and 3 of them are high. Why are these high priority? Like,
Through the lens of why doesn't our marketing work, these are the primary issues. They have many downstream impacts. It's got a cascading effect since marketing is the beginning of the entry point into engaging with your business. If these are broken, everything else behind it becomes in question.
okay.
All right. So, starting with the data model being broken and limited, I went in and created a couple of conversion reports, funnel reports for life cycle stages. So this is that bow tie model, and we should see a cascading, funnel effect. What we're seeing, in fact, though, is that they have 288,000 leads. Woohoo! What sales team wouldn't want that many leads? Except 4,800 of them have converted to marketing qualified. It's just fundamentally broken.
Am I
No one
seeing
is
this
moving
wrong, or
through.
do they have more SQLs than MQLs in the lifecycle flow today? That's mathematically impossible.
This is where your HubSpot expertise comes in.
Okay, there we
Understanding
go.
that this report is showing the contacts who have ever moved through any of these stages. So if you had somebody jump from lead to SQL, or if you had somebody start at SQL and move forward, these are cumulative totals.
Yes, but it does indicate a logic problem, correct? Because if for them, even if they spent a second, I know that some of our own lifecycle or customer lifecycle workflows have that stay in for a minute transition to show they
Mhm.
passed through MQL. So even looking at this with, I would say, in my case, relatively little HubSpot expertise compared to you, I can understand that the math doesn't make sense, which would indicate a logic problem in workflows.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
awesome.
Yes, or a lack of workflows and manual
Yes,
assignment and moving of people between the two. So on the right-hand side is when we look at this and restrict it only to the flow that it's intended to do, meaning we're only going to show those records that have gone through stage 1, then 2, then 3, then 4 in that order. The conversion gets even worse. It's just very clear everybody's coming in as a lead and you're basically not using life cycle stages, which is what you're trying to build your whole data model on. Now, HubSpot out of the box has some features that you can toggle on to automate the assignment when somebody's created, when they're associated with a deal, or when they're closed one. This is helpful but hurtful because it that by itself is causing people to skip stages. So we tend to recommend people turn those off and instead build workflows based on lists to enroll people into different stages of this funnel. And that's what this company had done. And here we can see in their workflows, not only do they have some technical debt in here, 44 workflows need review, every one of their workflows that they created to manage lifecycle stages is turned off and has been turned off since January of 2023.
I'm very glad I was not on the receiving end of this call. I can only, what happened? Can you pause for a minute just to talk about the reaction? Because
Yep.
that's what we're trying to get, right? Is to prove that to me, if that's accurate, which it looks pretty accurate, and some of the results even thus far, that it's elicited some shock, right? How did this go on the
Yeah.
call? What type of value or what type of impact did that have to deliver this, even this far into the deck?
Yeah. So I was meeting with the VP of sales, the CRO, and the head of marketing. So at this point, the CRO comes off mute and starts asking questions. And okay, I see this is like this. Hey, head of marketing, is there a reason that this is like this? Are you measuring this some other way? Do we not use life cycle stage? Is it like not important? Trying to understand, give the person benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's a reason.
Yep.
Um, but ultimately, they said, look, it is turned on for stage 5 and it's turned on for stage 6. Doesn't matter at all if you don't have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there wasn't really a great answer. It was
I'd
more
like
of
to
a,
make the argument on behalf of this whoever you are, is because I've been on these calls a lot, and more times, I don't know, I can't give a percentage to this, but a lot of the time it is a change management problem. Somebody is inheriting an instance that's been somewhat developed. That's usually, and I'm sure you can speak to that. What is the cause even further back than the context you had? And it might be somebody that just got hired as a CMO or was an IC that got moved up into some director or management type role. But that historical track record also, I think you can help speak into this, is something that you specifically help architect so that this type of problem is not able to occur again. Can you speak into that a little bit?
yeah. And Rob, you're more than a pretty face. You nailed this. This is a marketing leader who previously had a one-person RevOps team who left, and then this person was tasked with inheriting HubSpot.
It's just you hear it enough that it becomes that was just a lucky guess. I'd have no idea who this is or what happened. Frank and I did
Yeah.
not talk before the call, but yeah. So this to me is indicative of those types of problems. You can go forward now. I just want to see more of the story unfold and what happened next. I feel like I need some popcorn. Matter of fact, let me open this monster. This is getting good. Go ahead, Frank.
Yep. All right. So from here, we wanted to continue to understand what's going on. And life cycle stage is going to measure end to end in that life cycle. Lead status is then zooming in on this critical transition from marketing to sales and understanding what number of leads are getting transitioned to that team, what the sales team is doing with them. Are they working them effectively? Are they meeting the agreed upon SLAs? But when I looked into this report as well, I see there are new values that are not considered like traditional or best practice to use these types of values, such as spam, bad contact info, resurge, whatever that means, and prospecting. If you've got 84,000 new and 48,000 bad contact info, I can tell you already right now that probably you could fix that contact info. But if I'm an SDR, I'm an AE, I see that, I am moving on. Even if this could be a big deal, I don't care. It's bad contact info. And so you're not able to then leverage this to understand how that transition is working from marketing to sales and from sales back to marketing if it's not a qualified person or if they need to be nurtured. And also from a data hygiene perspective, you have 136,000 contacts that don't have a lead status assigned to them. So there's a lot of opportunity here to utilize workflows to provide consistency in how these values are applied, to be thorough so nothing is being missed, to make sure that things are consistent and flowing in a way that then gives you insights. You can't look at this and say, I know what to do for my business.
I'm a big linguistics nomenclature guy. If and I also can't see very well, but what I'm looking at says new as a status with 84,000. Unless that doesn't even make sense. New is not a status. It's a time like that type of stuff is important. So what you call something and the nomenclature has a SLA with it, it has a best practice with it, and that's why it makes sense to standardize, because new means something different to me, to you, to their team, to whoever left. It's just to give a specific example of this. And for sure, it should not be that percentage of the total contacts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times people do see this too, and then they're like, oh God, how do we even fix this? But thankfully, these are such common issues, not always this severe, but they're common issues. And we have solutions that we can run and very quickly recover databases to a place that they start to become usable very quickly.
I think that's a good spot for our commercial break from our sponsor, which, by the way, our sponsor is me and RP, because we don't have any sponsors. Nelson, if you want to play that, we'll take a minute and a half, 2 minutes to get water, chill, and come back and figure out part two of the story, which is how Frank positioned this, some of the recommendations, and what happened at the end. I might make popcorn, but we'll be back in just a second. Nelson, you want to hit that sponsor commercial?
I'm the mayor, baby. Running inbound like a secret layer, baby. Putting folk behind bars, call me sheriff, baby. New England showing love like I'm Thomas Brady. And the thing about your boy is young ROBVIPNB2B and OG reppin' RP. Speaking of B2B, I'm an alpha, but only around the spot. Getting loud about the spot. Come on, don't know what you heard or what you thought about the spot, but they lied about the spot. Doesn't scale, smells like BS about the spot. She got the cheetah print. Even cats are going crazy about the spot. Come on.
I don't care about skits and trains while revenue is down. Gotta rip out SFDC, baby. Rip out SFDC, baby.
I'm the mayor, baby. Running inbound like a secret layer, baby. Putting folk behind bars, call me sheriff, baby. New England showing love like I'm Thomas Brady. And the thing about your boy is
I don't care about skits and trains while revenue is down. Gotta rip out SFDC, baby. Rip out SFDC, baby.
RPREVENUEOPS, yes, we the best. Our squad so sharp, mayor like a mascot. I could be a cowboy too, Dak Prescott. All the leaders that are CMOs, all the leaders that are VPs, all the leaders that are revenue facing. Let your bias go, change everything. If you came with a blue stack, let go of that contract. RP got the flywheel freaks, fix your revenue leaks and bad.
I don't care about skits and trains while revenue is down. Gotta rip out SFDC.
I'm the mayor, baby. Running inbound like a secret layer, baby. Putting folk behind bars, call me sheriff, baby. New England showing love like I'm Thomas Brady. And the thing about your boy is
I don't care about. Gotta rip out SFDC, baby. Rip out SFDC, baby. I don't care.
Frank, how was that for the 800th time? I apologize for that song being stuck in your head, stuck in my head. That's why I made it like that. But anyway, we were showing some stuff with Frank before the short break. The bluff, the recap is that an audit revealed some pretty severe lapses, broken processes, customer lifecycle in shambles, and bum, 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 bum. Frank flew in with an orange cape and helped save the day, and he's about to tell us how he did it. Frank, you're up.
All right. So before we save the day, we're not out of the woods yet.
The day is not okay. I was
I-
just getting ahead.
I will go quickly through this, but when it comes to the value of marketing, if you can't have any attribution, you're not going to know what you're doing at all. And first red flag in that area was, hey, 99% of your contacts that you're creating on a monthly basis are coming from offline sources. Now, before anybody who's actually like a HubSpot nerd out there says, hey, but there's drill down 1 and drill down 2, I get it. Have you tried to report on those? When you go from original source to drill down 1, there's too many options. You literally can't do it. If you export it to Excel, well, have fun. It's just going to be really challenging. So being able to go through, create a process that helps provide visibility into marketing source, product source, sales source, etc., and then drill down further into what the campaign was, what the engagement was, is going to be critical to understanding what you should do at all from a marketing perspective. But the
What all
really,
options, really quick, just it would
yeah,
help me clarify, what all options are included with offline sources with respect to like how many other ways were they not doing marketing as a best practice, right? Like any of that, to what extent is 99% of offline sources, and what are some of those drop downs that were maybe incorrectly attributed?
Yeah, so typically offline sources is going to be either you have outside tools integrated with your CRM.
Yep.
So it will then be pulling in from, say, ZoomInfo or Apollo or a similar platform. You could also have just list loads. You're going to events, you're collecting names, you're having people opt in, and you're just pushing those back into the system. If you're not careful about tagging attribution and sources when you're doing that, all of these people are coming in as offline sources. In this instance, yeah, they have a ZoomInfo subscription, and their salespeople are just dumping everyone in the known universe into the CRM. But they do also have a big presence at events and conferences, and they can't split the two. They don't know if the money they're spending to go to those events or host booths is returning anything.
That was the perfect example and way to explain that. Thank you.
Yeah. So you would think I've got 99% of my contacts coming from offline sources. If you look at deal attribution and figure out where those contacts came from, it should look the same, right? Wrong. This was such a big surprise for me. The blue, the teal color here, these are offline sources. So you're like, wait, all of my contacts are from offline sources, but offline sources are not converting either, even though it's 99% of my contacts? Yeah, unfortunately, it's maybe 50%. You're seeing good performance of things from direct traffic, from paid social, paid search, referrals. That's showing you what you do for marketing when you're doing it. It works, it hits the right people, but you have no visibility into what you're doing. So
Yep.
there's a huge opportunity to improve, to try and get a better setup. And immediately you're going to start being able to drive more revenue in this instance. Not to belabor the point, but their email marketing, when you're pulling giant lists out of database platforms and just blast them on a regular basis, it's going to get pretty poor. What's great in HubSpot, if you're in the marketing hub and you're looking at email, there are these great tools. You can analyze the performance and you can look at the domain health, which is really important. This became a big red flag and a risk for them because at a certain point, HubSpot is going to suppress their emails from being sent. In a severe situation, you could even be in breach and they would prevent you from sending emails because you're just doing so poorly. So we wanted to flag this as important. But again, this is something that's fixable. Being smart and strategic and how you're doing your outreach for email marketing is something that's going to pull this back the other direction.
Is the email health score shown here that has all of these average rates, benchmarks, is that a tool functionality within HubSpot that would indicate even further like a lack of infrastructure, the fact that they did not have this and were seeing the results of it themselves prior to the audit findings?
Yeah, this is all native within their HubSpot account. They can go in there and view this. And what's great is you don't see it in the screenshot, but right below this, it says, here's your top performing emails. Here's your worst performing emails. Here's your lists that are having lower than normal open rates. Maybe you should reconsider how you're marketing this. HubSpot is trying to help you be successful but you have to look and you have to take it seriously, and you have to understand these things really matter.
How you opened this episode was like you've tried to find the pain, put words to and describe what that is, what they're feeling, why does it hurt, where does it hurt. This seems almost like a CAT scan of org health at a high level to be able to zone into those both the healthy and sick or affected areas, right? There's some decent stuff on here in the findings, right? 50% of your leads are coming from offline sources, but so is other stuff that you're apparently doing right. You're just not tracking it. I just wanted to highlight the fact that you open this with being able to find and describe areas of pain. And this is very indicative of that happening. It's not, I've heard it's direct and hard on people that are hearing that in the org, but it's not an attack on that. And it's a recommendation on how to improve and recommendations for what you're already doing correctly. You just might not be able to pinpoint it, describe it, or attribute it in this case.
Absolutely. So I think one final slide. This is the big payoff because I was meeting with a CRO. You gotta tie it back to dollars. If you want leaders to listen to you as a RevOps leader, you have to tie your work back to dollars and cents. This one hurt my feelings. This one's just tough because you're doing so much work as a marketer. You have marketing contacts, you're trying to be strategic, but if you're not managing your marketing contacts, you are literally throwing money away every single month. And so I wanted to also include for this marketing leader, here's the filter that you should be doing and looking at to identify contacts that you need to be removing from your marketing contacts. Even with their discount, which I took into account, they're throwing away $1,300 a month. So what would you do with an extra $16K per year just by keeping your contact lists clean and
Legoland
making sure that you're
for me.
Legoland or a fractional RevOps support? If I can help to identify where budget is, it's just that much better.
And that's a kind of a hack is the wrong word, but that's a very top level thing, right? If you meet these 4 criteria, you could say that. I would say that's something that is just scratching the surface of the value that RP or that a strategist, somebody like you, can bring to a deal. And that's a lot of money, but that's one of the first things. That's something that we would consider like a quick win, correct?
Yeah. This is fixable within, about 2 hours of strategist work.
There you go, 2 hours. So where RP is negative $8K per hour for our pricing. That's not official. It's not on our site, but it's how I would describe it. We're making you that much money with 2 hours. Go ahead, Frank. This is good stuff, man.
Yeah. So at this point, they basically threw in the towel and said, all right, like, we believe you. This is a problem. We do want to fix it. What do you recommend? So they're weighing a couple of different options, but the best recommendation that we have is that we come in and we partner alongside. We provide fractional RevOps support to, one, help you define what you want your business to be. What is your go-to-market strategy? How do we customize and personalize lifecycle stages, lead status to your business? It shouldn't just be cookie cutter out of the box. We know best practices, but we need to tune them and bring them to you guys. And so that's our recommendation. We can come in and work with them to supplement what they're already doing and help their one marketing person, their one sales leader to focus on defining marketing strategy or developing sales reps and not worrying about taking care of their tech stack. And so that's how I think we're going to provide the greatest value for them.
I've got a layup for you then, because this whole thing has been about a marketing leader. I think the sales VP was involved in the CRO. Yep. So this seems very much like a marketing problem, Frank. And you keep saying fractional RevOps or RevOps as a service or whatnot. Why not say marketing ops? I know the answer. I'm being
if you only want to do the percent of the puzzle, like it's a third. Marketing is a third. Hey, this sales VP, he ain't innocent either. I saw his pipelines. I saw his conversion rates, the deal jumping, the forecast categories all out of whack. But this is where the immediate pain was. And if this is something that we can start to fix, it's going to trickle down that benefit into sales. But we want to help and advise people throughout the entire customer journey. But typically, we come in where it hurts the most. And once we can provide some relief there, they're like, oh, well, my leg also hurts. And now that my elbow's better, could you help me with that?
You mentioned downstream. It's almost gotten to a point where, because I feel this in copy and demand and content that we put out, if you're asking for marketing ops help or sales ops help, even that isn't enough, right? Like whatever it is that you call it, you're process within marketing or within sales or within whatever else is impacted either upstream, like if you're in sales, obviously marketing plays into that, or vice versa. But it's typically a more holistic set of problems than just something with not using marketing contacts. So that's my PSA. I've had two today. The second one is whatever you call it, marketing ops, sales ops, whatever, for a holistic approach to solving those pain points. It's RevOps as a service or fractional RevOps. You've heard it here. I wish I had a gavel. Slam down. This has been great. Is this the end of the deck? Because I know we wanted to
Yes,
get
this
into one
is.
other thing. Word. So that's a lot of stuff. You were asked, or Reddit asked, how do you define a HubSpot expert? We talked about this badass audit that you did. I think the last thing that we were going to get into quickly was, Nelson, help me out. The hell were we going to talk about?
The best thing in tech.
Best thing. Oh yeah. So the best thing in tech. Sorry, I lost this and it was named the right thing. I just can't see. Best thing in tech. Frank brought something and I can't wait to see what it is. Best thing in tech this week. Usually HubSpot in the Orange Network. There's a lot of HubSpot stuff. I don't know if this is something that can be used with HubSpot, but it's any tech, anything cool that you've seen that's, wow, holy crap, I can't believe that can happen. Hygiene and the AI avatars was one example, right? But this is intended to help you keep up with stuff you may or may not have heard about yet. I think Clay is one of the ones we've done. Frank has one today. Frank, what's the best thing in tech this week?
The best thing in tech is ChatGems. So one of the awesome parts of being in this world is I get outreach by a lot of founders, early stage, for just come and look at my tool. Is it cool? Validate that this is a problem. And when I saw ChatGems, I was like, okay, this is actually pretty sweet. I started to engage with it. The idea is this: you're going to use an AI chatbot to engage either pre-sales or post-sales with prospects, clients, former clients. The use case I looked at was understanding why people decided to leave or churn. Everybody sends end of service surveys, but you're not going to get great fill rates, or if it's from a person, maybe you don't want to talk to another person. But studies have shown if it comes from like this third party AI user, people are more likely to respond and they're more likely to talk longer because they're just talking to a bot.
And be more honest, not placate the
Exactly.
response.
This is so much more than a bot, though. Like, I was blown away when I was talking to it. I was engaging with it. And at one point, I did forget that I was talking to a bot, but it's awesome. And they keep adding in new features to drive adoption, to get people to fill out your forms. And the coolest one, which is something I've suggested to them, and it's now on their freaking website, is instead of having to type your response, you can just talk into your microphone and it transcribes it.
Yeah,
That's
text to talk
that's
for
literally the voice of the customer.
holy crap.
And
Yeah, that's
it captures it, it analyzes it, and it pushes it back out so you get all of those insights. So ChatGems is something to watch out for. They're super early stage, but I love this concept.
yeah, that seems really cool. Even the positioning of a survey you'll actually use or respond to. That's brilliant. Spoiler, we are not sponsored by ChatGems, but we're not taking DMs either. ChatGems, if you hear this, awesome product. Nelson popped in to say something and then escaped. Yeah, this is great, man. I know you've probably already pushed this to the playbook team to figure out if there's a use case for us with some of the stuff we're doing, but this is great. Frank, where can people find you other than inbound? I know we're both correspondents, so we'll be in Boston in about 3 weeks now. Where else than that can people look for you?
The happy hours around Boston afterwards, I will be at those. Best way to reach out and interact with me is LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm not on any other platforms. I don't tweet or X or whatever. So find me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, /Frank Devine, and would love to connect and engage or troubleshoot. I offer free question and answers for people who ask good questions.
Yeah, and so I'll plug you here so you don't have to say it yourself. Frank is available at Inbound. We are having a landing page put up for any HubSpot team member, any HubSpot rep that may have a prospect in the area that needs this type of, as we were talking about earlier, third party or kind of more non-biased validation. If you have HubSpot.com with whatever you're sending from Seismic or whatnot, you're involved in the sales process, right? So it might help. It's something that, Frank, are you correct in offering that to people that might need an in-person or on-site review from an SE?
Absolutely. That would be such an exciting thing for me to be able to talk with someone in real life and look at their HubSpot over their shoulder. I've been working remote for 6 years. I miss people, but I think it's really exciting because I'm not just limited to HubSpot. I can look at any tool, any platform, as long as it's connected to HubSpot. Hey, why isn't my Salesforce to HubSpot sync working the way that I wanted it to? Or I'm having trouble integrating Gong, or whatever it may be. An audit isn't just limited to HubSpot, and I can go across platforms.
Hold your horses on the audit word. We'll call it something else. For a prospect, it might seem more like a POC or not a POC. What am I thinking of? Proof of concept or an RFP, right? Is this even possible? So the reverse demo thing is cool that you're able to do. Frank Devine, it was divine speaking with you, and I'm going to whoop your ass this year in our fantasy league. So after this episode, we're no longer. When do we play each other? Have you
I'm
looked
not
yet?
sure, but you're gonna.
Actually, I'll take it back. I will be your friend and confidant and colleague until the week we play each other. Then I don't know you at all.
I'm so good at fantasy; it's in my LinkedIn profile.
Frank, thanks for doing this, man. Stay awesome. Keep doing it big, and never stop believing in the Hubolution. We'll see you next time on the Orange Network.